And within a year, basically everything came crumbling down.
What's up, agency owners? Jason Swenk here with another episode of the Smart Agency Masterclass, a podcast for the agency owner that wants to hear amazing stories from agency owners that have been through the weeds and gotten to the other side. And this episode is no different, where we're going to talk to an agency owner that was on the brink of just shutting everything down and turned it around. So let's go ahead and jump into the episode. Hey, Chris, welcome to the show.
Hey, Jason, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on. So tell us who you are and what you do.
Yeah, my name is Chris Marrano. I'm founder of Blue Water Marketing. We are a digital agency that works with direct-to-consumer brands to generate sales using SEO, Google ads, and Facebook ads.
Fantastic. And how did you get started? What's the origin story, and why'd you want all this pain?
Yes, the pain is real. So I went to school for advertising up in Boston, graduated in 2010, and right out of college, the '08 crash was kind of still lingering. Took a little time to get my first job, but I actually worked at a pretty predominant agency called Mullen, which is now Mullen Low. Some of the accounts that I was working on was Match.com and LendingTree, Mass Mutual, Nat Geo. So really kind of, I guess, grinded my teeth out there for a while, understanding kind of all the complexities, especially on that level of advertising. And that was 2010, so kind of the digital revolution hadn't fully taken way yet. So I was actually working on traditional media. And then from there, I went onto the client side of things, working for a couple large companies on the digital side of things. And so it was just always what I wanted to do, I guess, kind of falling into it. And as we were just talking, I bounced around, lived in Colorado. Now I'm based in South Florida. And in that transition, really didn't know what I wanted to do, didn't really wanted to work for like the corporate ladder any longer. So I started freelance work, and in end of 2016, 2017, opened up Blue Water Marketing, just because at that time the revenue was kind of there. I was able to quit my job and start on this venture of digital agency ownership.
Let's kind of skip ahead a little bit. So you quit your job. It's making, you're making money, which is fantastic, right? Like you're like, yeah, man, I've created freedom where I can pick and choose and do what I want. But it probably didn't end up that way.
No, it didn't. So, I want to say very quickly, I broke the 6-figure mark, in terms of annual recurring. And next step was location, team, have me be able to do what I want to do instead of doing all the fulfillment of services. So got the location, hired 4 people quickly. And within a year, basically everything came crumbling down. I was looking around. I was at this, I think, 1,800 square foot space with no one else in it, having still the only clients that I had from the beginning based on those relationships I had made, and was kind of scratching my head to say, like, what am I doing? Now I'm only making X where I was making Y at my last job. I'm working 16 hours a day. My relationships are suffering due to all of this. Personal life, my now wife and I weren't able to buy a house. So many different things contributed to what the hell am I doing?
And I mean, obviously there's so much to unpack there, right? There's so much on your shoulders. So you start getting business, and I presume that business was probably word of mouth and from your connections.
Yeah, so search engine optimization, we always have ranked very well in our local area. That was part of the reason why I decided to open it. I looked at the competitive landscape and I said, hey, I can do this much better, rank quickly. So it was that as well as referrals.
Yeah. And when you brought on the employees, what was their role? Like, how did you decide which of the 4 types of roles to bring on? And where did you go? Where would you have done things different because obviously, and we'll get into kind of, I mean, especially when you're affecting, like the decisions that you made was affecting almost your future, which is a lot to unpack. But what was the four roles that you hired, and what would you do different?
Sure. So the four roles, one was a graphic designer, which was a terrible idea because we really don't offer those services. One was a website designer. The other one was Google Ads, kind of hybrid SEO role. And then the other one was more of like a account manager, office manager type role, right? So still small business. So everyone's kind of wearing different hats. I would say the issue in that and what I would have done differently is in order for a business to survive and flourish, it needs sales. So in thinking about the fulfillment of services, yes, always the core value is like we want to do the absolute best for our clients, but we don't have clients without sales. So in hindsight, I would have flipped roles differently in that as the business is coming in, we bring in more people to fulfill those services. I did it the opposite. So the whole chicken or the egg, what came first? In this scenario, sales always needs to come first and fulfillment always needs to come next.
Was it really, did you feel like you would have more confidence if you had the team to back you up to sell?
I think for the initial, it was more of my vision of what I wanted the business to become, right? The team and the whole atmosphere and the enjoyment of it. I think I just didn't know how to yet to run a business is what the core issue was. I knew how to do marketing. I still know how to do marketing, but since that time frame, I've transitioned per se from the marketer to the business owner who wants to understand what a P&L looks like, where are our COGS, what are our SaaS overhead, all of these different things to ensure that I don't get into a place again where I have to lay people off.
Tell me more about, because I find it interesting, about the vision that you had of what you thought the agency needed to be when you brought in those four people. Because there's a lot of agency owners that are at that point or about to go through that point, or maybe they've gone through it already.
Mm-hmm. So I think my vision always has remained strong, which is why probably 6.5 years later, still in this position where I'm now working for that. I think from like a vanity standpoint, anytime there's an office and there's a team and, you have clients come in, it looks way better from a surface level, perspective or representation that like, oh, look, there are actually people here, real tangible people that they can speak to. And so it was more of like that field of dream approach where it's like, if you build it, they will come. Well, matter of fact, they not really.
It doesn't happen. You build the salespeople, they will come.
Correct. And so that's really what the transition has been, and then right after that was COVID. And I'm in Florida, so it wasn't that extreme in terms of shutdowns. But
there was no COVID in Florida. What are you talking about?
No, it didn't exist. But for our more regional national accounts, it was an issue. So it was really a few years of trying times per se, that now coming out on the other end, like stronger than ever, scaling, growing, fantastic, exciting, so.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit more about the vanity. Because I find that interesting. And I remember I went through the same thing. I didn't hire as quick as you did, but I remember when we would go, like, our agency, we started in Atlanta and we obviously ended it in Atlanta. But I remember going all the meetings, and I remember like the agency owners AA meetings, right? And whenever you meet another agency owner, the vanity metrics was, how many employees do you have? And that's how you would posture, right? It's kind of like, I got 50 employees. I got 100 employees. Like, look at me. Or you would posture based on, media spend, revenue on top, right? Why do we care? Like, looking back, did that ever matter? Because I know it didn't matter it mattered to me and what I thought of who I was.
Right.
but I don't think it ever mattered to the clients.
So I think it's an interesting thought process. I've had experiences where just a few weeks ago, a potential client came in and you could see immediately his demeanor. So he came in the first time and it was a work from home day. Everyone works from home Fridays. So he came in ghost town. Then he came back in 2 weeks later and almost had this like aura or this like pump. Oh, where I'm dealing with a legitimate business. But that's few and far between because I think I've had 3 clients actually come into the office in the last 2 years based on the transition to Zoom and conference calls that it really doesn't matter. And so I think, but it still goes back to for marketing and my vision and what I enjoy in this is the camaraderie, the team, the excitement, the creativity. And I do still believe my vision is having that team, but not so much from the reason I thought it was. The reasoning now is way different than the reasoning 5 years ago.
So tell me more about the vision now and how it morphed a little bit or how you got rid of some of the vanity. Cause I totally agree with you. I used to think like I was measuring my self-worth through what my competitors thought, not my clients.
Yep, for sure. And it definitely an internal kind of conflict back then in that, oh, this is going to make it look more successful than it was clearly. These days, it's more of just a team unity and growing effectively, efficiently, providing the best services possible. And so it's still the same vision with large team, but the reasoning behind it is different. I could care less what the clients think now. We have a team, we deliver on the results, we communicate effectively. It's no longer a chip on my shoulder per se than it was back then.
Okay, so let's kind of unpack where you're at right now, right? Like, so you probably a lot happier, you're delivering probably better results. Why is that? What changed?
So I think at that time when it was really the castle was crumbling, took that step back to identify what happened, what were the issues, and brought in who's now a partner here, who was in the trenches with me to try to figure out what the most effective way to grow and scale this business. Like we knew there was something there. The numbers proved it, margins proved it, relationships, we have clients been with us for 4 years, right? But we had to figure out like the why behind it all, like what happened. And in over the last 2.5 years, 3 years almost, it has been that is each quarter almost subconsciously, we begin working on something that was wrong to improve on that. And so, we're still working on it now in SOPs and processes and new landing pages and speaking to a unique audience instead of I'm a fisherman. So trying to throw a cast net into the ocean is one of the most ineffective things to do. But if you drop down a beaky line in a bait pool, you're going to pull up your bait. So I was trying to identify all of these different things. And then the potential hurdles or issues that we had with different types of clients to isolate, again, who do we have fun working with? Who are the ones that we can drive results for? And then how do we speak to them? And that in turn has resulted very well for us.
Yeah, it's all about getting, we all start the agency with some type of vision, and it's normally back of what we've seen. But if you kind of start, and that's a good way to get started. And I think people have to get started with what they're familiar with, but then quickly kind of adapt to the current environment of, I always use the analogy, it's like a Vegas buffet. You've got to try everything and figure out what you like, what you don't like. And you're like, I'm going to eat more of those crab legs. I'm not going to eat those green things called vegetables, right? Like I'm going to avoid those with all costs, which is like how I am. That's why I'm so healthy. I'm a meatitarian, I guess. But
love it.
You need to really get specific and know the bait that you're fishing, or know the fish that you're going after. know the bait that
Yep.
fish actually goes, and then actually know where it's at, and then also have that why, because I sense, and you mentioned this a couple of times, like you like having a team where you can be creative and entrepreneurial and really kind of have this community that's has this goal and vision, rather than a lot of people have a vision for, I want to become rich.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, how's your team get behind that one?
Yeah.
Like, is that why your team keeps having a lot of turnover?
Right. Yeah, that's definitely not. I mean, of course, at some point you want to have, wealth to be able to have the freedoms, but that has nothing to do with, I would say, the vision of Blue Water and what we're looking to accomplish.
Well, you mentioned a key word is wealth and freedom. And those are different than being rich. I look
Right.
at, and I guess you can always define it differently, but I look at, I want everyone, and the reason why we do this show and why we have our masterminds and the masteries and all that is to create a resource to show you how to build the freedom that you want. If you want to have the freedom to work all the time, perfect. If you want to freedom to take off or freedom to pick and choose, like whatever that is, this is not like we haven't created this to, show you how to sit on a beach like the Facebook ads, right? Sit on the beach and make money, and like here's how to build $100 million agency, and
in 7 days.
Oh yeah, 7 days. Well, I'm going to give you an exclusive. This is how you do it.
Yep.
In 7 days to make $100 million agency. Here it is. Everyone listen. Start at $200 million.
There you go. Exactly.
And do nothing. And I guarantee you it'll be $100 million.
Yeah. And it's true. And I think working is just a passion. So I think what it is now is trying to identify what are those things I'm really, enjoy, and then figure out how to put people in place to make it so I can do those things.
Yeah. Well, Chris, my last question for you is, you talked about kind of what I would have done different was bring in sales. So how, in kind of parting, what was one strategy? And we're not looking for a hack or a get rich or any of that, right? But what was one strategy looking back that helped fill your pipeline for you?
So honestly, it was having enough confidence in our results to reach out to our clients for video testimonials. And so kind of an onion you have to unpeel is you have to have the results first. Once you have the results, you have to have the relationship that you have enough trust with this person that they feel comfortable that they're most likely going to be splattered on Facebook and Instagram. And so what we did was we asked a handful of clients for, we gave them 10 questions. We said, hey, whatever these are, like they were important questions. What are the results been like? Different things. If you want to spend 30 seconds on 2 of them, if you want to spend whatever on a few of them, they sent us just almost like emotional, like for me, it was emotional because the responses were like unreal, like life-changing results that we've been able to generate for them. We sent it to our production team. They chopped them up into vertical videos, square videos, and we put them on Facebook and Instagram. We built custom landing pages depending on what services they were discussing, and we now have that dial where we can turn up or turn down based on the predictability of what we've already been able to get. I mean, last month we onboarded 5 big accounts. This month we turned them all down because we're like, hey, let's let the dust settle. Let's get everything back organized. And end of next week, we're going to turn them back up again. So that was really like the game changer. I mean, we've ran Google ads and all that, and cost per clicks are so high, and the trust, you're kind of just a dime a dozen in the fluff out there. So it was really having content from our clients that spoke to what differentiates us as an agency.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. Yeah, I always tell everybody the case stories that you develop, from the results, and I'm glad you focus on results, because there's a lot of agencies out there that don't focus on results. Literally, we just got rid of an agency. I was just like, you keep going over stats that I don't care about.
Yep.
I don't care about open rate. I care about meetings. Like, that's it. If you say open rate again, you're fired. And they said it again and they were fired. So like focus on results and then tell their story of where they were and where they're at now. And that just, like you said, consistency over time equals trust. And, it makes it almost an unfair advantage for the agencies doing this because there is such noise and, we're drowning in all this crap, but we're really kind of starving for, people that actually have that knowledge. So
exactly.
Applaud you for that. What's the agency website? People can go and check you guys out.
Agency website is bluewatermarketing.com. We're in the middle of a complete rebrand, relaunch, new agency site with a very specific niche, and we're excited for that. So don't fault me for what it looks like now. Check back in another month or so.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thanks so much. Go for it. Go for it.
You can also check out my YouTube channel, just Chris Marrano on YouTube. Put out a bunch of content that basically just goes over everything that we do here at the agency.
Cool. Awesome. Well, everyone go check that out. Thanks so much for coming on the show. And if you guys want to know the 4 secrets to attracting the perfect digital agency clients, like I'm doing a free masterclass. This is absolutely free. Our whole goal is to put out resources better than everybody else's paid crap. And so we have this Attract Masterclass, and we're not going to try to sell you anything, I promise. If you go to agencymastery360.com/attract, we're going to go over the unfair advantage that I figured out that was helping us destroy our competition. We're going to talk about the biggest mistake agencies are making when they niche down that they think. And we're going to talk about a whole lot more about even how eventually I wound up almost quitting the agency to eventually selling the agency. So go to agencymastery360.com/attract. And until next time, have a swank day.